Hey guys, Halakha Nera Part 2, you know the drill. Okay, in this video, we're just going to discuss one or two questions, halakhic questions relating to lighting Shabbat candles. Hopefully this one will be a little shorter than the other ones. The first question is about electricity. Can you use electric lights for Hadlakat Nerot? So in order to figure that out, we've gone back to, just to remind ourselves, there are three reasons we discussed for why candles should be used for Shabbat, why we like Shabbat candles. One of them is Kavod Shabbat, which is honoring Shabbos, just a nice way of showing Shabbos is important by lighting candles. The second one is Oneg Shabbat, to have light for your meal. The third is Shalom Bayit, so you can actually function in your house because you can see you're not bumping into each other and you can function like a normal person. So the question is, if these are the three reasons, would electric lights work? So if you just take a look here, definitely Oneg Shabbat, electric lights work, because that way you'll be able to see what you eat, no matter whether it's a candle or whether it's electricity. Either way, you can see what you want to eat. Shalom Bayit, to function normally in the house, of course, electric lights help you see. The only one that's questionable would be Kavod Shabbat. Okay, now is it less respect for Shabbat meaning obviously it's more honorable for Shabbat if there are lights on than if there are lights off the entire time. But the question is it maybe there's something about a candle specifically that's more kavod, more honorable, shows more respect and shows that Shabbos is more important. So based on the reason of Kavod Shabbat, one could argue that perhaps electric lights would be no good for Hadlakat Nerot. Now again, we're not just talking about like electric, candles, even like, the lights in your house, would those be enough? Another thing to discuss is the type of bulb that works. Should it matter whether it is of the first two categories, incandescent and halogen, and the next two, which would be fluorescent and LED lights? Now the truth is, in the book, it tells you should go online and look up how this works, but I don't really want to get into that, and I don't want to make you guys go look that stuff up, and it's whatever. But the most important part is the distinction between the first two and the second two is the first two give off heat, and the second two do not give off any tangible heat that you can feel. So one possibly could claim that the first two categories, incandescent and halogen, since they give off heat, they're more like a candle, like a real fire. The second two do not, because they do not give off heat, they're not really like a candle. So perhaps if you need something that's called a nair with heat and a flame, perhaps you might distinguish between the first category and the second category. So again, we have two different ways of framing this question. A, do all the reasons apply to Nerot Shabbat apply to electric lights, and perhaps Kavod Shabbat does not? And secondly, what about if they don't give off heat? Perhaps you can argue that if it doesn't give off heat, it does not work for Shabbos candles either. You have to actually light actual candles. So if you look in the Sefer Shmirat Shabbat Kehilchata, written, I would say like 30 years ago, by a renowned posek in Eretz Yisrael. So it's a very widely used Sefer. I probably should have put a picture of it in here, but it's too late now. So Shmirat Shabbat Kehilchata tells you the following: Hamalik Nerot Shabbat b'Yom Tov b'Nerot Chashmal. If you light electric Shabbos candles with electric lights, yesh lo amal lismoch, there definitely is who to rely upon. Okay, v'gam yivarecha hadlakazu. And you can also say a bracha, bilvad she'adlik l'chavod Shabbat. And here's where you add, as long as you're making sure that you're lighting for the sake of Shabbos. So make sure that when you light those candles, you have to have in mind, I'm turning these on for the sake of Shabbos. That's how Shmirat Shabbat Kehilchata gets around the Kavod Shabbat issue. So you'll say, well, electric lights aren't really Kavod Shabbat. They're the same lights you use during the week. How could you tell this is special? So he says that as long as you have in mind that when you're lighting, I'm turning these lights on not just because I turn the lights on in my house, but I'm turning them on for the sake of Shabbat, you can actually use electric lights. So according to Shmirat Shabbat Kehilchata, if you don't have any candles in your house, or you're somewhere without candles, let's say in a hotel, you turn off the lights, you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu mitzvah tzivanu ladlik ner shel Shabbat, and you turn on the electric lights, and you have in mind, I'm doing this for the sake of Shabbos. And you should know this is a pretty accepted psak and way of doing things. And this is also why some people suggest turning off all the lights in your house before you light Shabbos candles, because perhaps these electric lights qualify as Shabbos candles, and that's what we discussed earlier in the last video. The second question we get into is, when do you make the bracha on, say the bracha for lighting candles? Now, with all mitzvot, the general rule is you make the bracha over l'asiyatan. Right, there's a Gemara in Masechet Pesachim that you're always supposed to make a bracha before doing mitzvot. Before eating matzah, you say al chilat matzah. Before counting Sfirat HaOmer, Asher Kedeshanu Mitzvah Tzivanu al Sfirat HaOmer, etc., etc. So, can you do that for lighting candles, or is there a problem with saying the bracha before lighting candles? Should this really actually be an exception? So that's what we're going to discuss. Is there a problem with saying the bracha lahadlik ner shel Shabbat before you actually light? So the Tur, which is the precursor really to the Shulchan Aruch, so he quotes the Bahag as saying the following: Kabbalat Shabbat tluya b'hadlakat ner. Lighting candles actually begins Shabbos. And then he quotes an opinion. I'm going to skip a little bit. V'atosvar katav she'ein tarlu b'hadlakat ner da'afilu achar shadlik lo chalav Shabbat el tali b'tfilat arvit shemipal. So what is it that starts Shabbos? Is it that candle lighting is the beginning of Shabbos? When you light candles, now I accepted Shabbos? Or is that davening Mariv accepting Shabbos? So if davening Mariv is accepting Shabbos, so when you light candles, there's no accepting of Shabbos going on, of course you can make the bracha beforehand. But perhaps one could claim that if candle lighting is what accepts Shabbos, then perhaps one might think that it's not actually candle lighting, but it's actually the bracha that accepts Shabbos. And if making the bracha, Asher Kedeshanu Mitzvah Tzivanu La'adlik Ner Shal Shabbat, if that accepts Shabbos, saying that, hey, it's Shabbos, that's why I'm lighting, so then how could I then light candles after I say the bracha? It's already Shabbos. I can't light candles on Shabbos. So for that reason, Ramah writes, again, Rav Moshe Isserles, who's writing a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch, writes, Yetz Misha Omer Shemevarchin Kodem Hadlaka. Some say you should say the bracha before lighting, like every other mitzvah. However, Yesh Misha Omer Shemevarcha Achar Laka. Some say you should light candles afterwards. Okay, so what do? So he says, Kadesha Yeh over Lasiato. So we want to be careful. Listen, if making the bracha on candle lighting, La'alik Ner Shal Shabbat, actually accepts Shabbos, so it's not worth the risk of making that bracha and then perhaps lighting candles afterwards and it's actually Shabbos. So what should you do? So you should make the bracha afterwards, but we're supposed to make brachas beforehand. So look what he says. Kadeshia over lasiato. So how should you make it, as so to speak, as if you're doing it before the mitzvah? Lo yehenem mimenu ad la'achar habracha. Don't get hana'ah from the candle until after the bracha. So what do? Masim yalif ne'ayir achar lach muvarchin. You put your hands over the can after you light, and then say the bracha. V'achak misalkan. And then you move your hand. V'zem mikra over lasiato. That is considered to be as if you did it before. So just to recap, what we do nowadays is, instead of lighting first and then making the bracha and then lighting, because we're afraid that might cause us to light on Shabbos, we first light the candles, but to make it as if we're saying the bracha beforehand, we don't benefit from the candles. Instead, whoever's lighting covers their eyes, says the bracha, and then opens their eyes, and now they're benefiting from the candle, so it's almost like they made the bracha on the candle beforehand. Which leads us to one more question we need to discuss, which is, well, if we just said that saying the bracha lahadlik ner shel Shabbat accepts Shabbos, so what happens when I make the bracha after lighting? Okay, so I light the candle, I cover my eyes, I say the bracha. Now, is it Shabbos for me automatically? What if I then want to go turn the light on, or turn the light off? What if I have to go turn the oven on? What if I want to drive somewhere for Friday night dinner, but I want to light at home? What can I do? Can I have in mind, yes, I'm making the bracha, but it shouldn't count as me accepting Shabbos? So, there are two opinions about it. The Shulchan Aruch quotes two. Some say the stipulation before lighting works. Some say it doesn't. The word for stipulation is tanai, which you need to know. It's an important word when it comes to halacha. Tanai, taf, nun, aleph, yud, which means a condition or a stipulation. It's saying, I'm accepting Shabbos on the condition that X, or I'm making this bracha on the condition that I'm not accepting Shabbos. Some say that works. Some say it doesn't. Some say if I say the bracha la'alik ner shal Shabbat, but I am thinking in my mind, this should not accept Shabbos for me, then it's not Shabbos yet. Some say it does. So the Ramah adds, the minhag is that a woman accepts Shabbat with the bracha. Unless she makes it tanai, but even a mental tanai works. So if someone lighting the candles and they say lahadlik ner shal Shabbat, now the reason the Ramah writes a woman is because it's more common for women to light candles, and therefore for a woman it counts as accepting Shabbos, but for a man it does not. So if a woman, according to the Ramah, is lighting Shabbos candles and says the bracha, that accepts Shabbos automatically, unless she has in mind that I'm not accepting Shabbos like this. And the Mishnah Berurah adds, you should only use this tonight if necessary, because there are those who say it doesn't work. So if I'm going to light candles, but I know that I would then want to drive somewhere for Shabbos, but I'd rather light candles at home, so I can light candles at home, have in mind this is not accepting Shabbos, and then go do that. If I want to light candles and make sure I get the candles lit in time, but I still have to drive to shul, okay, then the same thing. I say lahadlik ner shal Shabbat. Have in mind this bracha is not accepting Shabbos, and then I could drive to shul. If I want to, whatever it is, I just want to make sure I set the lights, and I have to adjust the temperature on the oven. I want to take some food in and out of the oven, change the light bulb, whatever it is. I make the bracha. I have in mind this should not accept Shabbos, and again, you should only use that in a situation of real need. That's it.